Alfonso Cuaron's many illustrious films are perfect examples of how a director can utilize cinematography as a means to enhance the narrative of one's film. In the case of Cuaron, his chosen method of communicating such a thing is done through his immaculate use of long takes. His 2007 sci-fi thriller Children of Men centers around the premise of an infertile globe with a rapidly declining population. Amongst the chaos of this world on the brink of a literal apocalypse, our protagonist Theo is united with Key, the world's first pregnant person in over 18 years. Cuaron, along with cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki, used tense, action-packed long takes as a way to present the viewer with information on the state of the globe and the effects it has on all characters, while still being able to focus on the morality and urgency of the protagonist's development along with the main imperative of the film's narrative. In the beginning of the scene, the camera is placed next to Theo and the rest of those trying to protect Key and her baby. In doing this, the camera mimics one being placed in the situation and sets the tone for shadowing behind Theo for the remainder of the scene. This limits the audience's view and thus takes away our ability to judge the best possible way for Theo to reunite himself with Key and thus survive. And much like Key and her baby, we are given no choice but to trust his decisions and to hope for the best. Although the latter two-thirds of this long shot contain no direct dialogue, it's far from silent. The final 4 minutes of the scene consist of almost exclusively conflict, desperation, and the realities of warfare, something that remains consistent throughout the film and comes to its cyclical conclusion in this very scene. Along with the terrifying noises of war, consisting of screaming, violent yelling, and gunshots, Cuaron's placement of the viewer directly in the action allows for a greater understanding of the urgency in Theo's quest. It expresses how, through all this fighting and all the death that we have witnessed, the promise of a future and the preservation of a life that symbolizes such a thing is bigger than any one person. By sticking alongside Theo, the viewer is forced to watch, listen, and feel the distress of famine and violent conflict, as throughout the film's many long takes, the camera lingers on the horror-stricken faces of the ambient characters who have been subjected to a fight they want no part of. Sorry. The tension and earnestness created by long shots such as this one not only enhance the narrative of the film's story, but work to do so in a way that connects the viewer to the immediate intensity and brutality of the situation at hand. And perhaps more than anything, it feels real. The long takes leave nothing up for interpretation, allowing us to empathize with the uncertainty and fear radiating from the characters seen on screen, thus delivering Cuaron's most important message of the film: that regardless of culture, creed, age, or race, all life is valuable, and everything and everyone means something. Where this specific scene really separates itself from the other long shots in Children of Men is this right here. This moment, this splatter of blood, is perhaps the most powerful example of Cuaron's ability to associate meaning and emotion strictly through a camera lens. As made evident by the hundreds of previous deaths in the film before, it's easy to watch something and become numb to the pain of an outsider, or rather, someone that is not imperative to the success of the film's protagonist. Not only do we witness the death of an innocent bystander, but the viewer is then forced to deal with the consequences of being with Theo and seeing what he sees. The blood splatter invades our personal space and leaves us wondering, what other horrors will we witness? Will Theo make it? And most importantly, is the baby alive? These questions are put to rest as Theo enters an abandoned apartment building in the heat of battle and maneuvers his way upstairs towards what he hopes is Key and her child. With little to no dialogue, and with death and destruction seemingly around every corner, we come to understand the fragility of life and the universal instinct to save oneself purely through the on-screen visuals created by Cuaron and Lubezki. As we continue to witness atrocities and come face to face with the victims of this losing war, we sympathize with the reaction of all people within the mise-en-scène. However, it is the moment when we hear the faint innocence of a crying baby that we, the viewer, finally become completely synonymous with the civilians in the building end with Theo walking through the derelict halls. Amidst a confusing moment of shock and terror, they, and therefore us, are suddenly given hope. Life has been given a chance, and it unifies not only the characters on screen, but the viewer as well.